Completely, fully away. Perfection, knowledge, and conduct. The training God, future of all to figure completely only away from the idolatry, the glory of the confidence. The joy of the story. The life of the Lord. Completely perfect. Thou trinity destroyer, the glorious conqueror, subject of only strength and final. I grow strength is my goal. Thou trinity complete perfect glory. So God, I prostrate my God. And knowledge and conduct. Supreme God and human beings. Future of all. She do it's emotion like a dog. Faith places in the trees. When you're the face of the Lord, you are with supreme sound, faith of the Father. That's freedom. Incomparably wise. The Savior and great compassion. The founder and all understanding. The fear of their qualities like a vast ocean. To you who are wanted us by God's strength. The purity that frees one from attachment. The virtue that frees one from the lower wrongs. The one path, the sublime reality. For the Tao that pacifies. Those who are liberated to the shore of the path of liberation. The holy field qualified with realizations. Who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I strength. Homage to the Supreme Lord. Homage to the Dharma refuge. Homage to the great Sangha. To all three, ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bound with bodies as many in all realms, atoms, and all aspects. With supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. To you I thoroughly pursue the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of leather, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, state condition things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeking, to do the foul faults may be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging fitness and death. Page 15, Bodhisattva Sutra. I prostrate to the area of religion. Together with the greater community of ones and the greater community of ourselves. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in a concentration on the categories of light and cold. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Sarvaya looked upon the very practice of the profound conviction of innocence and beheld those 500 results of the then through the power of Buddha, the village said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasaya out of any son of the lineage trained who wishes to practice the activity of found perfection wisdom. He said that to the Bodhisattva Mahasaya David is from the training started about a week. Job group training, some for the needed job order for the edge. It was just the practice, the activity of profound protection wisdom. Upon my head. Prayerfully and repeatedly beholding those five elements also in all unity, emptiness of storm. The emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, oppositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Zarathustra likewise and from her without her commitment, unproduced and stainless, not overstated, not Zarathustra therefore emptiness is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, smell, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, no there is no element to show on up to and including no and no consciousness element. There is no ignorance and no existence, and so up to the middle, no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and power. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and no freedom. Shall therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the protection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration, without fear. Having clearly passed beyond error, they reach the end point of their life. All in order to dwell in the three times, also manifestly completely awakened, to unsurpassable attractive complete enlightenment, and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Gaya Gadi Gadi, Paragati, Parasanga, Soha. Shara the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavad arose from that concentration. Commanded the Bodhisattva Arena, which arose, saying, well said, son of me. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice profound perfection of wisdom to that you indicated. Either the Sabbath is the joy. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharabhadagutta, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya of Vicharan, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world, gods, humans, assurers, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25.
Sanje shinde mende oye chogo nanda shimba chokwa shu.
Jetsun Lama
Dhamma chenamje chogo bala jenze jente. Jela zambe deje zemama saje chuje chala mutu so. Guru lana mendya niyatayha. Sanje chelam soye chanama chanjo bada dani. Age chejen jeve somanje dola venje sanje tobas. Sanje chelam soye chanama chanjo bada dani jas. Age chejen jeve somanje dola venje sanje tobas. Sanje chelam. Chanjo bada dani jason che dali chujin ke besan. Ola benje sanje to shu. Gange de zenye zave dawa danje pawe chire tembe shene denze ve kodam de la cha ze lo to nye nye je sun je ve. Kije zenze kanje dende kwa chana ve ma denze ya ze lo so wa de zla shin je zende shu. Pandenze ve lo ma rambo chen dali de. Ouais, dans un coulon, comme des scarabs, c'est vrai, coulon, dans un mixé, tiens, mais, dans les cheveux, nimbo, sort, de, dans la qui colle, de, tu sais, 机械咱们学的他妈的写球嘛的是吧？他机械的话是嘛，我这些种子，确定早起没学的呢，确早起没别车嘛的，我们这归拢的呀，我是结果的是，归拢，哎，一定的，也的，让你机会的等出来起的嘛吧，然后个定是一切的，旁边你就甚至他们这，女儿的呢。他都跟电话三节公嘛特别切的，一个月300块呢，不让的那些结果要来是吧？
We should motivate, especially that today we're about to study the essence of Buddha Dharma, meaning Tantra, the essence meaning that we couldn't possibly study it all, but in that context, it is special Dharma. It's not enough that the Dharma is special, our motivation also should be. So, our motivation is that today one will listen to this holy Dharma, not just for oneself, but to quickly liberate the sentient beings and place them in the final state of ultimate happiness, final bliss, the beings who have been kind to one, like the parents of this life. So, with that motivation.
哎呀，那到我们是吧？
We should now rejoice for a few moments.
ya da zo nangbe chu la de da zo jing sim du ya ge tablan ja nya re ba ni sim ju du ya ge tablan ja nya sum ba ji me shu ji ge ani sim ju du we tablan da ma de we nangbe chu kan ji yo ma ke si yo we na de nangbe chu cha ge yo ma re sro ba ji ben jo so ya ro ji ko ro ma gu du ya ro ge da ji mo cha ya ro yang su su chu ya we we gyun ji xian du ja re la ya so ro de ge chu ji yo na 낭배추 거랑 책이야 말했어. 낭배추 세대 너무 준대데. 아니 로심지 감다 뭐가도 템베니 심기디야게 탑란로 숨바. 바시르에서 마셔서 대식 신고래서 라서 심지 딩자 제 뉴 에이지 소라서 넘버에 수대용다. 가시 추진자들의 시에니 넘버 2 되더라. 제가 넘버 인다만 있어야 돼. 정말 신고래서.
The sole purpose of Buddha Dharma is to subdue the mind, and all of the methods within Buddha Dharma teach that. Except for that, if it is not that, then it is not Buddha Dharma. So, in that context, everything other than subduing the mind. So, for example, if one is motivated for wealth, retinue, or fame, that is not the purpose of Buddha Dharma in that context. So the whole purpose is to solely subdue the mind in terms of what Shakyamuni Buddha taught. It should do that, and one should be able to clearly demarcate between what is Dharma and what is not Dharma, because these days people can be mistaken with regards to what is Dharma. For example, hearing all types of New Age things or mixing them up. So it's very important to know what is Dharma.
제자다 심지되게 탑람데라 아니 칸데세 심데라 차라니 체와 심라고다 침참모 아니 심라고데 되야게 탑람지라 아주 파진데와 규파르지메 대와 스페나다 그래서 라와스모와 출빈지라와 띵이진라와 셰르빌라와 아니 수련지라와 띵어서 류당아 당보 좀 낸데지 류마게 저바도야 치들와 당보 제바제인데 류당 알면서 일을 제바제게 말이야 일을 대체적으로 제조물을 시에요 말이야 일을 저한테 삼초그래 돼 삼초 말을 나요 말이야 말라 소제조 말을 준시조 말을 꾸마구조 말을 로연체조 말을 thế 말에 좀 된대 가르스나 딜라데네 가서 파르발랑 것은 누구야 봐 틱 준시조 말을 타마시조 말을 아니 디데이터 준타마츠도 가게라서 가게체조 말을 되게 바 남바지 좀 된대 이제 담바지나 디체 추고 말해서 류당 아니 제가서 까잖아 금쟁 가려나 먼저 류당 아디니 뭐스 파르발랑 뇌도 람사 제가 또 뭐좀 된대 이제 중앙시를 편 텐터 되면은 너무 계속하다로 제가 디 너무 수준이 나와서 뭐야 금쟁 된대래스로
Now, in terms of subduing the mind, there are gross and subtle levels of mind. So in the context of firstly subduing the grosser levels, we look at this in context of the causal vehicle or perfection vehicles. And within that, there are the three of ethics, concentration, and wisdom, these three trainings. The first of which is ethics. And ethics first deals with subduing the two doors of body and speech, not mind. First, Lord Buddha didn't talk about mind, but he talked about subduing the behavior of body and speech, because these two of body and speech are the doors or vehicles by which we directly harm other. So firstly, in terms of the body, to not kill, not steal, refrain from sexual misconduct, and then with speech, of course, to refrain from gossips, telling mistruths, speech, and so forth. So in this context, then, if one can't benefit others, then at least do not harm. And this is under that first pretext of training and effect.
그래서 주파른 집에 태과라 이라 믹세 제와스 요마르데레 야 심게 아니 뒤야 심라고 뒤야 달라라 아니 띵징라 바스 와가라저 심 마시와 온게 심 남도 만도 온게 심라 태야 만저가 다 띵상가라저 밀 심 태야 만타네 갈레 쇼도로 니마고 강인디 가르스네 심 태야 만타고로 제가 디 뒤야게 달라라 심 남도 뒤야라 시나 아니 셈게 누가 털대다 등산 셈게 누가 삼아 털내로 아니 내가 전에 슈민조 계절 전에 슈민조 곰점내 누워면조 차야 돼 가서는 셈 털대요 그래서 그래서 디 셈게 누가디 털대다 안디 주루루서 제되네 시내시하게 아니 띵이지 라바셔야 돼 루스네 다 아주 바지 대박 걸라 단다 Within
that causal or perfection vehicle, then there isn't a kind of a unique method to utilize mind. There is, this perfection of concentration, whereby you subdue the mental constructs, because we tend to overthink things or have too much discursive thought such that we can't sleep. So there has to be a mode for subduing discursive thought. And what happens is that when there's an excessive discursive thought, the mind is scattered, and then the mind has no potency when you work, when you study, when you meditate. So to collect in that scattered mind, we focus on single-pointed concentration or calm abiding. And in that context, this is what's contained in the perfection vehicle. Also, it is what the hearers and solitary realizers train in by means of these three trainings.
단다지 마지와당 마시와당 동해 문고용야다 거백의 뉴주디에 참제 말아서 단다 니머님에게 강에도 가내숑을 해도 차단이네 중어디 하고당 저와 차도당 차단당 아제다 근데도 숙청보여나 아니什么 미 차단 숙청보 미 차도 숙청보 미마제 숙청보도 什么마지오 망어도 이거스 통해도 와대로와 미대제 지 신변 상담단이 심시와 용아제 총 신뢰야 지동신이 아니 대세 냠종신 아제면은 냠종신이 유종초시신이 아니 지 신변 라레 신시와진이 아 차단 자원의 마반나 차단 대세 지 링아스 디코세로 여제디 숙충아 유니 미디즈라 먼저 대조 셈hlö도 와딩 먼저 지전하나 통야도 와스로 대조 가르된 거라서나 차단 리데네 아니 지 차단 용나 디예요 차단만나 동네요 차단이 그 자와데 네 디모디제 마르발라데네 좀 마르바도 어제기 남들라 네 돈이 된데 남샤디 예선 다도 좀 모여내주다 좀 바로 먼저 모여내주 마시면 안게 차단 용데 거라 원해신다 차단 제스 제거야 해요 말아 심지 담제 수주 파이네 이녀레 마이네 이녀레 다이네 이녀레 삼례 야고지 타는 못하나 디직을 차고도 직을 당하지에스게 요마라 디 가래주는 뭐 가르되는 중앙에서는 디모든지 말이고 미시고 온거 중앙에 네 하고 있는데 될라야네 다음에도 왜 셔럽지 나와서야 돼 독스전에 달라와서 냐면인데 좀 시조직 차비어래서
And then to train in the training of wisdom is very important, because we need to have a method whereby the mind does not become perturbed or upset. It's true, isn't it? In the samsara, on a daily level, we go through various problems and sufferings. We experience desires, attachment and aversion, jealousy, And we generally find that the people who have stronger disturbing thought obscurations, desires, attachment, jealousy, pride, and so forth, are upset more. But if we can cultivate concern for others, altruism, and instead of having a proud attitude, be humble, and also practice contentment, then it's easier for us. And in the context of uprooting those disturbing emotions completely, whilst we might not be able to do so, we generally find that the person in society with less desires, attachment, or aversion, is more peaceful, easier to get on with. So in that context, if we really want to uproot the disturbing emotions, such as desires, attachment, aversion, then we have to understand the cause, which is this ignorance. We are ignorant of the nature of the final mode of things, so we have to uproot the cause, which is unawareness grasping at true existence. So therefore, in that context, if you really knew that, you wouldn't have a sense of sentient beings being close to you, others being distant, yet others you don't know being strange. There's no reason for that at all, actually. In reality, there's no reason for it. However, out of ignorance, because we're ignorant of the fact and we grasp at things being intrinsic, then we have to cultivate a countermeasure to that, which is the wisdom, consciousness, mind, realizing emptiness. So therefore, we need to train in this third training of wisdom. Shirabgilapa.
다디네 아니 심 참모디베 탑란데라 아니 나가는 길에 말았어야 돼. 중요레스와 심라 와디지 탑란디게 되체 단도 파진 테이블 남기는 봐. 다디네 데부도지 대화 셰인데 나 남들라 심 참모스 다시 변하면서 심 참모라야데 실랑하면서 뉘되어 싫어. 왜나 심라 와디 단단한저 말한저 심라 와래가 지고 그랬으나 콘도사야의 미게 돈다 단단한저 심라 남도 담한테 태야 지도하던다 도서 참아던다 심라 와디게네 내가 제주 도되게 요레스 다디 응알이나 심라 와디게디 바까지와 심라 와디게 바까지 네 심 참모디 야네 남고 제시 네 달람 직송구요레스로 때 가르쳤는데 쌤 참모셔야 돼. 먼저 단다 말한저 수분나라 요레스로 니후데레스고 내가 시기요 말이지. 니후네 데데레스로 닝잠자 겨왕어머네 마 용지 쌤 참모디 용고레데 지 아메 고베나라 슈버네 슈드에 내가 지고리야 슈도로 가야 슈타네 시제네 베데 니후시에다 주니마 남셰데 아메 고변나나 수르드 차용거라 닝 차용거라 근데 내지 르 차당을 마도도 차사네네 드네 지제 시글라버들라야 심라고 상마 되지 에 심타만데 바치로지 통로고 요레스 드니메시 먼저 냠레마진이 이미지기나 심타모데 레가체 두즈니미시요 말했다 뭐스 비자와 말란데다 파시부 치르드 파지 레가체도 해주미시 지게 지당이요 말했으와 하디 당부 실내 여대와 지금도 낭베추 켈레나레 말레나레와 낭베 이나레 마이나레 참말래요 미파샤니 tundu치도 부터마도 있는 심탐모디 두스제니 도단지 부지냐레 스로하시다데 실내 여외게네 남샤직 차기요레스로
Now, it's important to know that we have this basis of being able to utilize the subtle mind. So we talked about the causal paramita yana vehicle, which is at a gross level, but in terms of the subtle mind, it is tantra or the vajra vehicle that utilizes that. And we have this subtle mind within us as a basis. Of course, in the waking day, it is the gross mind that is functioning for us, a mind that thinks, a mind that gets angry, and so forth. These are all functions of the gross mind. But in that, the tantric path, the point is to stop that gross mind, and with the subtle mind to cultivate a path, or more accurately, to manifest a path using the subtle mind. Now, we have that subtle mind as a basis, but it is like it's asleep. And for the normal person who is not utilizing the subtle mind, it would be there at conception in the mother's womb, and it's almost like it's dormant at the heart. And then once you start to go through life, the normal desires, attachment, and these emotions function. And again, that subtle mind is not really manifesting until death, when the gross mind once again dissolves and the subtle mind goes to the next life. So for the normal person, between that framework of birth and death, the subtle mind is not really functioning, not really manifest. But it's important to know, whether you're Buddhist or not, that all beings, whether they be humans, dogs, insects, are all the same, and that they have that subtle mind as a basis.
다든데 심 참모디 냠린시에들라 닝아단데니 꾸숨지 부숨람지 세야죠 치와주 바들론 겨두 세야죠 다도좀마 십다 와마토미 간산라 셰초고 말에 다데 데데마 띵사고 또 먹어셔로 와마토미 미직다 하고데 상알라 메미니 미 톰다데 셰초고요 말드네 마다 시다도 요 말에 다도네야 니오라냐가로
And then utilizing that subtle mind in Tantra, of course, it is taking the three bodies into the path, the death into Dharmakaya, Bardo into Sambhavakaya, and then birth into the Manakaya. These things should not be said so openly to the uninitiated.
다드네 상아 세야디 아니 먼저 보다니 여래 상아스 더주체는 상아스 상신 배배도 상아와 상완치지 아니 두고야지 그러면서 용다 근데 줘야 요 말에 서와 상아스 데 지단게 더주로 지래와
Yeah, so in terms of like a word etymology, we talk about secret mantra. So this first part of it, secret, is that it should not be given openly or commonly.
다 된다 저규인데 아니 상아스 데 만트라사스도 만트라사스 만트라라데 아니 이교와 이교와래 이교와스진 고고요레스로
The second part, mantra, is the meaning of that is mind protection.
다 이시도 먼저 심스와래 심로와 심교고레스 심 간에 교고레스나 아니 간데스 교고레 이 간에 교고레나 나 교단 간데 접단 간데스나 카메기 나오다 심바로 나시 가네 먼저 단다 나란저 동해요 와서만 카메기 나와 카메고 손다 동해 용되게 요와 야 파고차스는 동해 민도와 봐 산제사스는 동해 민도와 나란저 카메와 심제 카메랑 거 손사 동해도와 다디파까지 봐 카메기 나오다 심바디 까지 아니 동해군에 녀야 돼 카메와 손사 연구요와 야가나지 동해 카메와 손사 연구요와 아니 즉 대병호 방법을 돼 탐해서 선 거고요. 되자시당 권동하게 해야 돼 탐해서 선 연구요. 다들 봐 탐해게 나와다 심바상 바까지 아니 상당인데 아니 동해에 자 전에 가로고요. 제가 이 교과서 돼 탐해게 나와다 심만이를 교과서 다 교로 교단데 아니 원투 스케일은 좀 아니 당기 무슨 남지 냠내 치야래다 냠내 치다 림바 담 맨다 망고요래와 이데마 망고 디제 망고요래스와
So in terms of how then, if Tantra means to protect the mind. How does one protect the mind? It is protecting it from the ordinary appearances and clinging to them, because really it's the ordinary beings that go through suffering situations. The Aryas certainly do not. The Buddhas certainly do not. And once one stops these ordinary appearances and clinging to them as such, then that suffering stops. For example, we have to experience birth, aging, sickness, and death. This is all something that ordinary or unenlightened beings have to go through. Not only that, but the other emotions that come up, desire, attachment, jealousy, all of that. So once the ordinary appearances and clinging to them are stopped, then the suffering stops. And this really is what is meant by protecting the mind. Of course, to do that, first one has to be empowered to train in that, protecting the mind in that manner, and then utilize the methods such as taking birth, death, intermediate state, and birth into the path. And of course, in tantric practices, there are many divisions of methods.
다 되네 어느 상하다 파진 대원이라 면대에 저와 그래라나 다단다 디 데불라 쳐요 말에 산제 고마터야 될라 쳐요 말에 데불게다 규딜라 쳐와 되지요 그래서 배나면도 파진 대원이나 타다 셔라니가 아니 뭐 다데도 시작해요 그래서 전주 쌤다 전주 쌤디 돈이 또 뒤죽으랑 요 말에 또 두고요 말했어. 돈이 더 별로디 전주 쌤 오지요 말했어. 별로가 셔고 그랬어. 다 돈이게다 간도야게 돈이들에 좋아요 말했어. 다 되네다 돈이 더 별로들라 좋아요냐. 배나 다코다 이제 파진 되고 있는 쌤라고 하대 도로와 마이는 쌤 참모디 도로 여러와 니켜와 동도와 다 파진 말이나 언니 뭐지 도가 다돼 쌤 지게 아니 쌤 참모스나데 쌤 지, 장주 쌤 뭐지와 되게 돈이도 별로 뭐지 뉴웨이 된 시기요래 제가 디인자 아니 탑 코로나야 고민데 셰럽이야 제도 셰럽고 셰럽고는 답시 제가 송죽해야 된다. 시내가 내 답시 뭐지기 요인자 아니 되불이야. 그도 송죽해야 돼. 용어요. 근데 다 저와심을 요래스로 저와직 되요래스로.
So one big difference then between the maturation vehicle, the Vajra vehicle, and the causal paramita vehicle is in terms of the cause, not in terms of the result. So the result is the same, is that we're going for the corpuses or bodies of a Buddha. But if we look at it from the perspective of the perfection vehicle, the causal vehicle, you know, the bodhicitta and the wisdom consciousness, realizing emptiness, are cultivated separately, are not in union. But in terms of course, one has to cultivate that wisdom mind. And in that context, the perfection vehicle is mainly working at grosser levels of mind, whereas the Vajra vehicle is utilizing the subtle mind. And also the distinction of utilizing that subtle mind where there are the two isolates of one entity or one reality. So we talk about the union here because we're going for the union of the two bodies of a Buddha, the mind and form bodies of a Buddha, and from a tantric perspective on a causal level, they're taken in union. Sungjuk.
제가 다운로드 되네마디 페이지에 시도인데로.
So we'll now go through the text. Isla Shuktang Kod.
슈탄디 딱히신 저도 줍시 되네마 그러셨는데.
Jada Shishira Ku. Sanga. Di Kung Diro Kung.
그거 상일라 저와 미진스 대태월라 저wan 대송도 대디네마 쿵 셰도 현직나마 뭐 타단디 그런 로자라
Ale
파르치베
tumo mayembegi sukugi yu.
파르치메 대과초디 교원인스 왜냐 대과대 파진 대원이 타도 그 대우 본발라 상이 초미기 겨와가야 매진스르와 가게도 시에서마 네 대부려야도 상이 좋아요 말레스 대과디니라 좋아요 말레스르와 매진스 대과디니 겨와니 아니 산제지 공방에 톱지기 유치한에 겨와쳐고 했잖아 나당 도시야디 대부분의 겨와치야 말레스 유기전에 겨와쳐고 했어
Naso.
송송하대
So back to the text now, if you have it, page 85. So second paragraph down, we're looking at the distinction of the two Buddha bodies in terms of effect and cause. So second paragraph, just as the effect of the bodies of a Buddha has two aspects, chuku and suku, there must be discrete causes of these. The sutra and mantra vehicles accord in holding that the wisdom that realizes emptiness and that is conjoined with the altruistic intention to become enlightened is the uncommon cause of the truth body and a cooperative condition of the form body. However, the secret mantra Vajra vehicle has a vast method of deity yoga, which is an uncommon cause of the form body. The perfection vehicle lacks this. It only has the methods of engendering the altruistic intention to become enlightened and the six perfections and so forth.
아니 저도 아마 레드바 차례
Yeah, the Gisla Gisungsa di Tarangje.
진족도 로 차례
Yeah, lots of.
아야 나더니 네 탑딜라 귤레 겨와요레 두고 산지지 추구 당 수군이 셔와 아 추주구세야데 아니 산지기 주 당당 안한지 셈제주의 셔바시도와 아 셈제주지 제가 셔라고디 균야 산제살라다 파진 대보이나 누구하다 디샤고라 그셈 만도 셈라고시도와 로스고요레 아디 마직 집신 더셔디 공원에서는 겨와 산제살로 두기 파신 겨와 지말래 두고 맞다 시도도 잠가 알아봐
Yeah.
아야 균이 로스네요 고야였다 쉐베 균이 도그레스 봐 균이 아니 다고 가는 거래 다 돈영원에 됐으면 담원데 도되게 요라 세상다 디 지메야 산제 차로도 셈 담원데 지메 추구스니 차고 산제 육구를 다 수구스야 되네 류디 차로 류들 봐 가만도 수구다 추구니 겨와서 산제지 꿀류들이야 수구체 추구사 산제주의 시바들라 추구스 꾸니요 도스체 도스레스 추구다 수구니요 따라서거든
So then we have these causes of Buddha's nature body or wisdom truth body, which is the subtle mind, and then the cause of Buddha's form body, which is the wind. If we look at it from the perspective of the causal vehicle, in one sense, the gross mind does not really go to that wisdom truth body of a Buddha, because at death the gross mind dissolves. What does go, let alone to that final wisdom mind of a Buddha, but to the next life, is the subtle mind. So those then are the two causes of the two bodies of a Buddha, the subtle mind on the one hand, and then the wind that is the cause of the form body on the latter.
안저 실라 된대지 신고래 귤레야 현직 지연다 년령 규스 니샤고라 남배슈네와 베나만저 구시로지 샤샤네 에볼로지로 구시로지 샤샤베나 아니 콜라 년령 규다 현직 지연 규스 니셰로와 년령 규사데 다 구시지 마다베 제기 균지여라 구시고도 신기 균레 되는 제기 균지 마 용구여라 균지 용구여라 구시동고를 철로만 찍으면 더 구시랑 찍기도 알아. 그 제지고. 딜라 년龄 규마 제 규모니 딜라 년龄 규 탐제라 되어다 년龄 규디 시작으로. 대우 탐제라 싫어. 대우 탐제라 년龄 규에 켜래. 다드네 니 현지 제겐스도네 데 니메 트다 추다 르다 어디게데네 그 현지 제겐으로. 디나신 대우 탐제 뭐고 대우 탐제라 유니니니 용거래. 앞에 대나신 산제사의 대우래로 추주고 대 대우선 다 콜라 년龄 주 가래 라인데 아니 전주 생기 생배 아니 돈이도 왜 셔럽디 추구 두무 많이 배게 아니 년龄 교래로 아니 수구디 그걸 현지 시기에다 거기 조진이 들어봐 어디 아니 도당가 아닌가라야 아니 근데 요레스로 돈이도 왜 셔럽 셈디 아니 추구 년龄 당기 구슈그 맞제 윤도나 이제 다 콜라야 로버션 튜니자니데 아니 지
Cool.
수국의 현지지 연신에도 가르스나 배낭아서 수국탑지 유도 가르스나 전주쌤다 전주스님 마세나 람디 대버지미 줄 로야면도 아마 돈이 또 버상지 도면도 와 어디게 단도 추구를 하다는데 어딘데스레스로 준데도 단데 tindi샤고레스로
Okay, so then in terms of how those causes and effects function, if we look at the resultant Buddha bodies, it's important to look at these substantial causes and then cooperative conditions. So if you look at it from the perspective of an apple tree, the direct cause or substantial cause is the seed, because the seed of an apple won't produce an orange. But there are also cooperative conditions that allow that apple seed to become a tree, like heat, fertilizer, sunlight, water, moisture, all of these things. So when we talk about results or functioning things, they all necessarily have this primary cause. You know, all results have that. So the resultant state of Buddhahood will have that substantial cause, or we could even say all results have those two. They have a primary cause and a cooperative condition. Coming back to the resultant Buddhahood, in terms of the primary cause, we said that, you know, Sutra and Tantra are both in accord, that the primary cause of that, you know, Buddhahood is the wisdom consciousness realizing emptiness conjoined with bodhicitta, and that's uncommon. And then, but, you know, the cooperative condition of that is the form. That's our cooperative condition of the form. So if there's, we can see this because if there's no bodhicitta generated, there's no great vehicle. So once more, the sutra and mantric vehicles accord in holding that the wisdom realizing emptiness, and that is conjoined with an altruistic intention to become enlightened, is the uncommon cause of the truth body and the cooperative condition of the form body of a Buddha.
다드네 산제 유굴라 수구세스도와
Mm-hmm.
수국의 두무만배 유디 아니 탑이 차들와 탑 전죽sem다 근데 소놈세 진바다야 수련소에 닝지 보면은 소거되다디 데려와 딘데 탑이 차들라 아니 상어도지 대보다 네 상어도지 대보다 대 매진스로 탑이 차요 수군 두무만배 네규 자치베 탑 요반에 상아도지 대과다 대매진 샘제다 친루소이 탑산요 바로 상아도지 대과라
Mm-hmm.
아니 수구투무 마임베 탑직 자가요레데 파진 대과라 요 말에서 파진 대과라 샘제소 되어다 진소 파진 두다 수구투무 마임베 상아도지는 대과라 아니 롱심 참모 롱샤고라 롱참모디 롱샤고라 제가 롱디 아니 수구투무 마임베다 유차고라 같아 롱 육심 참모디게 네 돈이 도게 전죽심 도베 차스나레 디다와라 디트로치 아니 되게 유튜브 마임바디 롱심 롱들와 롱디 디 상도지 대과 미슈지게 아니 파진 대과래 요 말에 파진 대과라 셈게다 친수게 탑단시 요레스와
Now, what is unique? Continuing on, page 85. However, the secret mantra vehicle has a vast method of deity yoga, which is an uncommon cause of the form body. So, you know, talking about that is also like the subtle wind, isn't it? You're utilizing the wind in that context to actualize that form body. The perfection vehicle, however, lacks this method, It only has methods for generating, the mind generation, altruism, and the six perfections and so forth.
다 유이 저와디 탑을 저와셔 그러면 시럽라 저와셔야 말해서 시럽
Yeah. So what we're saying is that on a causal level, it's differentiated in terms of the method, but not in terms of the wisdom.
다드네 두이 저와디와 바진 태과이나 개진 정면 숨는 상자고야 나이는 체직 류질을 상자인데 요레스 세상 디인자 바진 태과 대내 예서 바진 태과 남나 대내 체라 망보주는 상자이고 마토와 마도 체직을 상자에 도움이 두고 말레스 세상 어디에 다 두이 저와래로 체직 류질을 두두두지 나라
Like,
상자에 두고 여러 알게 난 유로시 세상 거 사부지 임으로와
yes. We can also highlight the difference between the two of Sutra and Tantra in terms of the time it takes to attribute the bodies of a Buddha. In one body, one life, one can actualize the body of a Buddha with the Vajra vehicle, the Tantric vehicle. So it's faster, it's more profound, whereas from the point of view of the perfection vehicle, this is only attained over many lifetimes, often kalpas. So there's a difference in terms of time.
대시 다드네 세지를 상하도 제대로라 다 상하게 남나 유로인 비김제니 시여로 상하게 남나 되네 왕보랍이 체직다와 왕보랍스 미 로도 첨부지게 아니 되면은 미로 숨 체럽 미겨워 숨 겨워든 어딘데라 아니 도구레 상하 밀로가 실라양 상제워요 와서 아니 체지무고 다게 로투라 상제워 다자도 마셔제도 로투 가와제는 상제성으로 다데 타마 나라 덴바레 다이나 바지데버 나 년도되어도 켈린 지금 말와 네다 테네 나게 니 뉴르 켜와신디 침벌에 상하라 제가 상하도지 택배 체주 수구 드무마인베 규디 카이냐나스다 수구 드무마인베 규디 아니 르 수구게 내르 라소웨 넘버드 해nen조 곰베 탑라나메 제가 해nen조로 곰네 아니 직 수구도야 된데 우여레 해nen조 곰 기승한도 셰임바
Yeah.
아니
네.
네르 롱조 제와도zo 한다고라베 데뷔 요거디 단단히 곰야 이게 되어시 제가 바진 대월을 근데 민도와 뭐 딘데기 뉴시에도 단데 딘데고는 또 성레스로
So consequently, Buddhahood cannot be attained in one lifetime in dependence on the perfection vehicle, but is attained over many lifetimes, whereas in dependence on the path of the mantra vehicle, a person of superior faculties, sharp, can become fully enlightened in one lifetime or even in several years, sometimes 1, 3, or 7 years. Hence, the difference in speed of the secret mantra vehicle is great. So there is that. And we can look at Shakyamuni Buddha's 6 years of austerities, and then he became enlightened. But in fact, Lord Buddha would have entered the Vajra vehicle, but that wouldn't have been commonly perceived by those other vehicles like Hera, solitary realize they wouldn't accept that. But however, that would be the case that Buddha entered into that mantric vehicle. What is the uncommon cause of a form body that is distinctive feature of the Vajra vehicle? It is the unsurpassed method of cultivating deity yoga in which one meditates, as we mentioned last week, on these 4 things: body, abode, resources, activities, similar in aspect to those of a Buddha's form body in the effect state. And this is something you don't find in the perfection vehicle, meditating on the resultant state already.
어디 딘데기 아니 하고게 냠내라 때네 고미야게 아니 가 남들라 딱신 단다데 기신 추즈 마체로 아니 네르 롱주 제와 타바시 딘데기 냠내체 인조들라 나 Tende nyamne che min yo ge sanje ge temba de la dos. Donga gi chabar shina o tende shi shana ta tada che gorde.
Daru. So one can then clearly, how you say, distinguish or demarcate, excuse me, between Tantra and Sutra, because in Tantra you are utilizing these aspects of body, abode, resources, and activities and visualizing them in a resultant state of a deity. Sutra does not have that method.
Ta tende nga de la yawa shi cha ju nenjo lana mewe ju shi je ne. Ju di shi sa ji ta sha go yore sirwa.
Yes, and then looking at those fourfold divisions of Tantra, action, yoga without action, supreme yoga, and highest yoga, or Kriya, Charya, yoga, highest yoga.
Da di sung do doji kuru ge liu chu sung pa le memba nam la chawe ju chame nenjo te ta ba os. Nenjo cho ne simjin cho. Nenjo la me te ta os. She du je ombo rinpa dan tunbe zawe ju di shi suwa. Cha ju nenjo la me ju si. Tere re la ya nan se ge yawa mangbo yorwa harwa. Ju su su nan se la yawa mangbo yorwa si. Teta lam ji ngo min do wa tang, chang min do wa tang, ju di ne sung zui min do wa tang. Ala nyuwe min do wa sa, shuni min do wa yo jang si ta, kiwa yo res. Teta ge ne tashin shiba ne, doji tekwe jinggo de shu shing, wangi ju min be, nyon dengi du ja la, sanwe tenpa cha wa, she zang ta di je she chogo mra, ba shi ra, ju gu ngo wo, ya wa, tang, nang se, zashin, ta wa de, wang to, jinggo shu, ju min, tamsi tongpa sung, wang lo me wa yu, nga lo me wa yu nye, tendeji le me shu chigi ma, hang zi danda di zhu zi zi, taja kan zhu de karo wa, tende da wang ma tam nye la, ni mangu chi koto karo wa da, she me re su karo da.
Marilla. So it was continued, page 86. Action tantras are for below. Yoga without actions is for those above them. The supreme yoga is for supreme beings. Highest yoga is for those above them. And within those, there are a great many differences, such as the numerous subdivisions, different entities of their paths, different enumerations, different modes of teaching in the Tantra sets, different speeds on the path, and so forth. The details of these subtleties of the essential points are suitable to be taught in secret to disciples who have become vessels through having entered the mandala of the Vajra vehicle. This is very important here, that one gets the commensurate empowerment via the mandala and has faith and so forth. Otherwise, just to be able to study these things online is not so good as it continues, whose minds have been ripened through initiation. However, it's not suitable that they be proclaimed in the marketplace like online, thus because it's inappropriate. Yeah, okay.
Da di ne, ondo di jik she na ya go re, rwa. Ne, tangi she wu na shi, domba she sung wa, chirumi. Da domba de la, ne, soda gu domba, chansin domba, nga gu domba sirwa. Da, de la ya khaza, re, de la ya da, domba, chansin ju domba, nga gu domba duzo, chansin. Da soda gu domba di pachi de go liya ya rwa. Chansin ju domba di pachi de go liya ya rwa. Nga gu domba di liya ya ma re. Da nga gu domba di chaju le yo ma re, chuju le yo ma re. Nenjo lana me wa ju kashe le yon de gado, mancha le yo ma re. Da nenjo lami se, de la nga gu domba le. Jingo di shu kong te. Nga gu domba yosa di, zo di jingo de, ju di shi na ki ju di. Nenjo lami de la nga gu domba liya yo re. Di jingo lo ma shu kong la ya, nga gu domba nangire rwa. Da di, rodan di jikshi na ya go yo re se la.
Now, with the tantric vehicle are the vows, and there are these three classes of vows: the vows of individual liberation, bodhicitta, and tantric vows. The first two are in common with the causal vehicle, perfection vehicle, individual and bodhicitta vows. But from the perspective of that causal paramitiyana vehicle, you cannot take the tantric vows. And even in the first two classes of tantras, we don't find the tantric vows. Action and then, what was it? Kriya and Chira. Action and performance. And it's in some of the yoga tantras, but not all of them. Where we do find it is in highest yoga tantra, where you take those tantric vows before you enter into the mandala. You can't, okay.
답에나 유도 오말라 남기는 바들라 천재 체면시하게 내줘 냠리지 요래와 딜레야 가르는 것은 돈이도 별로 심마신 거네 마심바들라 천재 아니 체면시 아니 다 딜레이나 가서 nga lamin la ina ne zorim da kirim si lam yimba yis si lam yirim benam shatinde yore esro.
And in those lower classes of Tantra, we have yoga with signs and without signs. This is as to whether one is practicing with a mind conjoined with wisdom, understanding, and goodness. So, if it's without that understanding, then it's with signs. If not, it's without. And then in the context of highest yoga tantra, we have generation and completion state.
당저 디지신에 오로 왕 nga라 다 당이 왕 토고레스로 왕 세야데 가레스나 다 조진 쉬고라 조진 가레스나 하데데 곰초고레 수주라니 봐 곰야 안 하디 셰가 곰초고요레 아니 제 뇽초고레 아니 도저다 제초고요 조진이라고 하지 마세요 조진이라고 디 수난 거라서는 아니 수된데기 유니게 라마지 만난 거라 근데 왕게 더 톱스나는 안에 수수진 거나나 쇼야다 수수 룩 탐에디 파메 메질 헬룰을 주고야 이거다 어딘데 유니 돌아야 아니 왕사다 뒤 건조망우지 왕사데 가래서 가지 배웠대 라마도 왕망우시나 근데 초전되고 그러다 결혼스다 결혼 산제서 두인 디그다 육수 냠내 체스로 초전되고 그러다
And what does it mean to take an empowerment? It is really that one gets permission via the empowerment to meditate on the deity and the abode of the deity, the pure mansional palace, but also partake of the substances or the things the deity uses. So who bestows the empowerment? It is a Lama that's qualified in terms of the stream to do so. And of course, within that, it's not your ordinary body that takes it, it is transformed. So a lot of people are, think that getting an empowerment is good because then Buddhahood can be attained much quicker.
다디네 결혼조에는 롱남식도 롱로와 롱데다 파진 태벌래요 롱마시도다 롱세야데 베나 다저 제르무징마 뜻딘지 숨 제샤여와 아니 데마 균디마 마체베치지 베나 당하나서 간주기 롱슈거와 간주 롱슈디 다가제 도벌리거와 간주 롱데 벽에는 난 것도 산제 좀네데 그 벽에 돌아 숨을 해서와 데 송요 말아 산제 송도 송을 게진 두만이 디자 송수 이나 데네가라 ngos yongda ge phewe ge chunyi ni yo marwa jagalwa phoge sung marwa go ya marwa ta khandere lagde sanje ge sanskrit da leja ge la sungje ani chu phewe ge loza na ge gyursha yarwa loza na gyursha jo de ko thön de da de de kanju de long thöngyu de wajre me shu da yura yo marwa sanje ge phoge mun sung bo ge 먼저 참여 tutto warwa sanje peloni peyo mare ani ja pebe mi sanje sheju de chunyanga ni chinya mare dene chesa tönde chu gyurni ani de malung nan ga yu long sa da de tönyu yu long do jire mi sheju sanje rang ngo sungbe ge long yu yo marwa ko gyumjen samdan shingido wa 다 제름 붙인 게 송부도 저이나 농무에서 여러 봐 제름 붙인 송부도 저게 송 디마지 단다 간디 티름 붙인 게 간도 간디 티와 디마 균이 티도 자단 가져를 저와다 단다 디마 딘제 네 하와드 되게 롱준 도 되게 봐 데라 롱스 워드 뭐 암주 데 암주로 거는 디고 데 구고요 데라 롱스 되게 신의 야고를 지나 롱스 롱 된다 데 롱슈도 니구나 롱 체로 왔다 다니 먹고 제 갈라사나 되고 자동나 되고 많이 타는 되고 그래서 카와 푸티는 되고 봐 사실 때문에 어디 롱세디 롱장세디 딘데직 송단직 최송주 송단 딘데직 요레스로
I thought to say something about long, this word long, or the transmission, which does exist in the perfection vehicle. So, for example, the unbroken transmissions coming down from Lama Tsongkhapa to this time. But if we talk about the long of the Kangyur in Tibetan, or the transmission of the Kangyur, the spoken words of the Buddha in Tibetan, well, of course, Buddha gave those teachings, but Buddha never spoke Tibetan. And Buddha never went to Tibet. However, there were translators who translated from Sanskrit into the Tibetan. So when we get the long, if you will, or the transmission of the Kangyur, we're getting the meaning transmission really. But we should know that we're getting that and that it is valid cognition, meaning that the meanings have been translated by those translators. However, when we think about a transmission from Lama Tsongkhapa, like his 18 collections of teachings directly existing to this day with the throne holder of the Ganden lineage, Ganden Tipa, so, sorry, I didn't get the number, but the current Ganden Tipa is, holding that lineage. So it's good if you have that long or transmission in Tibetan in your ear. If you sleep, it's broken, so you shouldn't sleep. But you can eat while you hear it, or check your phone. I'm joking. The point is to hear the words. These days, people's phones are so important, right?
And the tea says the one.
Yeah.
That tea the any matunda tea yarwa, tunda shade or tea, tunda shade. They aren't you myself or it, that tea can the
And then there's this other word called Gishlu tree dang long la kemkadu.
Luma dadunsion in the tree tea tunda de water tunda.
So then there's this reading explanation. So, first you have just the transmission of the text, but then this other one is when it's explained.
Natangi manzo delaya bena malami ta kizo ki language tisejat de yorwa tuzula tigi di jua de matama pejata chogo mar cheza lame nenjo mar kezo ki tit le ro kirim dang kirim zorin gomdang ki tit pejat de yorwa tuzu tigi juin di matama pejagona ta chogo mar oneshin.
Right. So to give an example, unless you have this explanation transmission or the meaning transmission of generation stage and completion stage, you shouldn't really read about it. In terms of Tantra. But it's not the same with the perfection vehicle that has like those, 60 collections of reasoning and the Lamrim. You can read that as much as you want. There's no restriction.
Lama giving number zero. Tandasa when Yade, that's actually sure it or Washada.
So all of these transmissions are currently held by the Tibetan Lamas, the spiritual friends. That's not easy. That's so special.
제시 지나서 아데데 니 등산 타자가라 대배자된데 망고도 뭐 니샤나데 니 고스 곰잡산 다러와서 봐 지나서 다다 된데 렛시 그러와 같이 곰 같이 쟤는 심나는 유어줘야 말다 니 진납세도 요 말와 배나 베디 라메게 메 나와도다 디 메나 가져배 룽티룽이 유어데 메비나 라메 나와 메비나 가져 곰데는 심나라 또고지에다 네 요말 그래서 알아서 최저다 드린다라 미카제인데 도와 아추니 로망고 도는 쩌바도도도 도는데 도 갈때 갈때 거서나 유학이 진압되어 말하고 소소지 롭죠 제대로 미지지 배나 지즈메라 당고 지좀 데 나무 마르베젤라 다 상하고도 최마성 누구시 땅다 아니 디 담바도 라마 신다지들 지금 말레게 튀김 나 토다 매와 지금 말베게 토다 매와 아니 라마 신다지들 주로 당가 차선 슈권바라 꼼데 여말 초바지 개개 중요 말로 가게 좀 가르잖아 라메게 지는 토요 말로 지저 빼도서다 세워 여러 지금 말레게 남달로다 지랑스 니나 세워 쉬죠 봐
And this is very important for us to understand that we get these transmissions from an unbroken source or directly from a Lama, not just like on a course online, because, if you get them like that, you don't really get the blessings, or the change in the mind doesn't really occur. Like there are cases of people having studied a lot, but their minds have actually gotten worse because there's been no blessing with that of the transmission. For example, when Milarepa was relying on Mapa, but he went to see another Lama, and the Lama told him to go and meditate. And Milarepa did so, but he got no insights whatsoever from this Lama's instruction, and that's because he didn't have the lineages or transmissions from this Lama or the connection.
딘데르와 다 딘데 인데 다 왕슈야데 다 왕을는 슈야라 티싱한도 티싱 직도에 받다 델레 태용도 아니 제주시 다 뒤에 제주 숨로 제주시 예와 참고해서 봐 당고 라마딘당게 신이딘주 개다데 자와라 신이딘주면은 다 찾아라 봐 안데네 장주게 심 주는 도가 줄에 깨와 되면은 베디 저제용와 되면은 베수스 메와 이지점 요치고 하래 안데네 돈이 주나 돈이 또 하러 되면은 돈이라 이주즈니 거예요 되면은 그래서 내가 뭐와요 가시에요 지다 거고요 딱 근데 거차워지다 거래로 거 고등하고 지다 거래 안데네 니중 그러와 니중 주는 줄에 깨고 되면은 니중이 거차 니중이 초요지 뭐고요 제주 시디 차나 아니 왕슈기나 tembucha 그래 야고요레스
And as we mentioned already, before one approaches the empowerment in Tantra, 4 things ideally will be present. It goes without saying that there needs to be a spiritual friend, a Lama, and you have that connection there. And then you should have an attitude of altruism or bodhicitta. Best case, you have unfabricated bodhicitta. If not fabricated, if not that, at least you have faith and a longing for it. You have faith in altruism. And it is the same with the attitude of emptiness, the understanding of the lack of intrinsic nature. Best case, you've realized it directly. If not, a fabricated understanding. And if not that, at least you have a feeling or a longing to realize it and you're interested in it. And the same goes for the renunciation, the thought to definitely emerge from samsara. Best case, you've already have it uncontrived. If not, you're contriving it. And then third case, at least you have a feeling of going there.
Oh yeah, that is our
Stop.
아유, 진진 나가 진내 조주제마 어산 덴베 되메 사선지 그외 미세 다도네 요지 당고라네 민달라 당예야다리마디 여디 유들라 전혀 도이지 지겨데 제사 쇼메 쇼에서 좀 마시 어디 분노지시 저는 선대와 단체의 이들 그리스도의 이모지를 지속 단지에서 배제와 유지하는 나도는 이제는
Wish grant and wish fulfilling to all everything all benefits and happiness in this world. Doing your proudly kind deeds and yet so I beseech. By all your holy wishes, please, spontaneously, fulfill. Savior, let them teachings and trends my greater redeems. And make sufficiently clear the path of the unification of emptiness and compassion. To the most soul routines and yet so I beseech. My all your holy wishes, please, spontaneously fulfill. You have always secured the moral way, preserved the bountiful bearer of hope, sustained and preserved and spreading Maginal's victorious doctrine, and lastly accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the revealed. Savior, myself and others, your disciples, please, let them return. For allowing us to accumulations of myself and others of them 3 times. May the teachings of the conqueror love and drug blaze for a long time. And this would return therefore last them. Heal us, the parents and way of the children of victorious one, proud to those in particulars, victorious blessings from sons along with lineage mountains, holy objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness and function just created here and now. Holy inspiration and one expression complete teaching, through explanation of practice, all the hour of patience that is never discouraged, and comparable venerable burden to you and him. While striving to wholeheartedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, the soul made way to adore benefit and happiness and rage, and for all other living beings who sadly departed to his, what a great wrong. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels, and the great rank of fortitude of the children of victorious one, may the smile of reincarnation lovely be involved before the time.
Thank you. Good night.